What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Back in the early access, and this one I wanted to brew around Drana, the last Bloodchief. Drana is a 5 mana, 3 black, 4/4 flying legendary vampire cleric. And whenever Drana attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard, and you return that card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, and it's a vampire and is new to other types. So basically trying to do a kind of a discard reanimation strategy. Obviously, Drana says that your opponent gets to choose, but we're still going to give some pretty, hopefully make some pretty tough options for them. Not a ton of new cards in here, but obviously Drana is a new one. But a lot of the cards, as far as like the top end, are stuff we already have in standard. So Terror of the Peaks works really well with this kind of a strategy. All 4 copies here. Gourmand, probably a little bit janky, but since we're trying to reanimate it, thought it could be decent. It is a 6 mana 5/5 flying trample. Additional cost to cast it, sack a creature. Not really great, especially since we're not really running a bunch of creatures. However, when it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. So it's strictly here just to be reanimated. Making your opponent sack a creature and then having a 5/5 flying trample. Just seemed like it was maybe good enough to run a couple copies. Maybe it doesn't make the final cut though. 3 copies here of Massacre Wurm. Obviously, it's powerhouse in a lot of matchups, especially if your opponent is a little bit low to the ground, and you can wipe out multiple creatures with the -2/2 ability. That's pretty fantastic. And then Terror of Mount Velus, obviously pretty expensive on its own, but flying double strike. When enters, creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn. So if this is the only this is the option they give you, and you're attacking with Drana, and then now all of a sudden it has double strike, that's pretty sweet. All right, so that's kind of our top end here. I was trying like the Lilianas and things like that, but ended up running an Extinction Event, just trying to get as much removal as we can. Extinction Event, of course, helps us go wide. 3 Soul Shatters, forcing your opponent to sack the creature or planeswalker with the highest mana cost among those 2 permanent types they control. A couple Murderous Riders for some targeted removal on creatures and planeswalkers. Of course, we do lose 2 life, and since we're a little bit kind of a slower reanimation deck, don't want to be necessarily running too many of these. That's why we're running 2 Riders, 2 Soul Shatters. Obviously still kind of tweaking the numbers, but this kind of gives us a rough place to start with. Inscription of Ruin as a 4 of. I don't love this card, but I think since it's modal, I think it's worth running in the main deck. So what this does is, it's a 3 mana sorcery. We get to choose one of these 3 options. You can have your opponent discard 2 cards. So if your opponent doesn't have any creatures on the battlefield, like if they're more of a mid-range combo control, you make them discard those cards. That could be pretty impactful. Or return a creature with mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, which we don't have. Or we destroy a creature on our opponent's side, mana cost 3 or less, which there are going to be plenty of reasonable options. And then finally we have 4 Cathartic Reunion and 4 Thrill of Possibility. So we're basically just trying to discard some of these top end, even Terror if we have to. I mean, it's 5 mana, so we can definitely cast this. But most likely we're trying to discard the Gourmand, Massacre Wurm, or Terror of Mount Velus. And if we need to, we can discard a Terror of the Peaks as well. And Drana is legendary, so we can potentially discard a Drana as well. Since we do have a lot of the card draw, we're running just the basic 24 lands. So we have 1 Castle Locthwain if we need a little bit of card draw, 7 Swamp, 8 Mountain, 4 Temple of Malice, and then 4 of the Savai Triomes. If you're drawing through a bunch of lands with these, discard draw cards, and you're hitting a bunch of lands, then you can just cycle these Triomes away. Or if you just top deck this in the late game and you're kind of looking for something else, then obviously that works for that as well, and it taps for both of our colors. So that's the deck. We'll jump into some matches and we'll see how it goes. All right, looks like maybe a Japanese creator. We got the throw possibility, so we'll go ahead and keep it with 2 lands. Discard one of these Gourmands, try to find some more lands, more card draw. And obviously Drana is what we want to see in open hand as well. Inscription could come in useful depending on what we're up against. Of course, as we outlined, it's just kind of useful in a variety of matchups, with it being modal. So if they drop a creature here, we can just kill it here on turn 3. Or if they don't have any board presence, then we will just force them to discard. Alright, so we'll wait and see what they do here before we throw. We don't want to give them too much information in case it affects their decisions. Got all the new lands. Alright, well, they're going to get to look at our hand. That's a pretty Acquisitions Expert has definitely put in some work against me. The party mechanic seems pretty strong. Alright, didn't draw a land, but then we did there. So that was a little dicey. Not going to worry about a 1-2. Obviously it does count towards their party mechanic if that's what they're going for, but we're gonna make them discard since they were rude enough to make us discard something, even though we're trying to discard, but they didn't know that at the time. Yeah, Acquisitions Expert seems like a much better kite sail freebooter because it doesn't. It's a 1-2 body, but the card doesn't go under it, so you don't get it back if you kill it. It just your opponent has to discard it. Even though it seems on paper like it's maybe not that strong, it seems pretty decent from I've played against it. All right, so we are finding our land drops, so we just need to find one more, so we can cast this Drana on curve and then hope they don't have removal. It's probably asking too much, but we're gonna go for it. They're over there with 4 colors in this brave new world. That's interesting. All right, Triome. Definitely want to hit a land drop there. So tap land. So we have 5 lands now. With these Massacre Wurms, we might just play this Triome as well. Obviously untap, and then we'll just try to cast it. That's pretty busted. Now we're already down to 11. Did not find any of our removal. We'll go ahead and play it. I don't think we're going to be having time to cycle this later on. So we just need to get this mana down, give ourselves as many options as possible. Tazri. So we're just going to lose to Tazri here, it looks like. Liliana. Yeah, the party mechanic, something that people were kind of... There goes our hand. Something that people were not expecting much in this initial go-round, but there definitely seems like there's some pretty strong party decks to be found, especially with the Linvala and that sort of thing. Attack 4. We need to wipe the board here. We'll go ahead and save this land since we have... I mean, we could hardcast the Terror if we draw one. So we got double strike now on the Drana. Just like that, opponent is down to 6. That's pretty crazy. They do have this Linval enhance and give their stuff indestructible, but they just have the 1 flyer, and we have 2 flyers. Okay, Linval comes down, 1 card in hand. What do you got? Yeah, 1 card in hand, it's a good game. Hey, we got there. There's definitely a bend but don't break style of deck. Definitely fallen behind quite a bit and then made some pretty powerful comebacks. Alright, against MTG ASMR. And seems pretty reasonable. I'll lead on the Temple, I guess. Maybe we'll start with the Triome, and then we can Temple after that so you kind of see where we're at. Sometimes it's better to wait on your scry land until you have at least a couple of draws. Showing Gruul so far. We could also just play this Mountain and then have... do we need the Extinction Events? We have Murderous Rider as well. Let's discard 1 land and hope we draw some more. We're drawing 3 here and we have another Thrill. So we're up to 5 lands so far. Okay, Brushfire Elemental coming down on turn 3 with a land, I'm sure. Okay, Teamer. Teamer Elementals, maybe? Of course, a lot of the Elementals have rotated. Do we care about this Brushfire? We kind of want to dig. There's Drana. So we'll let them have their Elemental here. So that's a 2-drop and a 3-drop. So Extinction Event a little awkward right now. Go and discard a Soul Shatter. Not looking too amazing right now. Let's see, that's a 3. Yeah, let's kill the Scoot Swarm. Temple. I guess we want Terror. Rada. They're getting close to activating. It's in a bit of an awkward spot here. All right, let's get the Rada off the board. And we'll Thrill discarding this Gorman, and then we can try to Terror or Drana next turn. Or just Extinction Event. That's disgusting. See, we're having a perfectly good game of Magic, then you had to play Uro. Why'd you have to ruin it like that? Well, they missed their land drop. Massacre Wurm with the untapped land? Of course not. That would be too easy. They're still a little ways from escaping. Let's play it safe here. Keep their board nice and clear. And they go to exile so it doesn't feed the Uro. Another Rada. Well, there's our 6th land. Now you show up. They're still a little ways from activating it. They need 2 more lands out, so we're going to go ahead and drop this Terror. Don't imagine they attack into it. If they do, that means they have something. But we're down to 8, so we still have to consider blocking. This nice thing about Drana is that you can get your Terror of the Peaks back. But our opponent misses lands, and I guess they give up. Alright, against Rogue. Double throw possibility, 2 lands, and a Drana. Sign me up. Alright, go and start with a Temple here. Don't know what we're up against. So we'll keep. We have discard, so if we don't need to wipe the board, then we can just discard it. So we have the Terror as our first discard. Dryad, okay. I want to force them to do we want to get rid of this Dryad? Maybe we should just get rid of the Dryad. If they're using it to fix their mana or ramp, then that could be bad for us. It's tempting to make them just discard some cards there. Might have been the better play, we'll see. Especially with Extinction Event in hand. So this is who I think it is. There's a Japanese content creator I follow that goes by Rogue. I believe that's what it translates to. Well, that's pretty nasty. Terror. Do we need that discard? No, we need some removal. Can't really do anything about Ashaya now, but now we'll go for the discard. 3 cards in hand, you get to keep 1. So you're going to hit us for at least 6 next turn, maybe 7. Or 8. Depending on what they got. Cultivate or something? Ooh, Phylaf. That is it's a 6 and a 5, so Extinction Event. Not looking too good here. We'll choose even. Does the most damage. We can drain it next turn, but we're still taking a lot of damage from Ashaya. Turn Timber Symbiosis. So Ashaya makes all your creatures tap for green mana as well. They get a 4/5 Azusa. That's wow, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Alright, we get a 4/4 Drana down. And we have a Terror in their graveyard. Let's save the land. Well, maybe we should have played it, because if we do another one, then we could have hard cast it and got another one back. That would have been pretty disgusting. Alright. We'll attack and get our terror on the battlefield. With a counter. Giving our Drana a double strike. Alright, Massacre Wurm just has a big body. We can kind of do some blocks here. Wow. Alright. So I think we had 3 games there, so a little bit short, but that's fine. Kind of go over the list one more time and maybe discuss some future options. Maybe Jund might be kind of a better way to do that. There's some kind of beefier stuff you can do with like some of the green creatures. Obviously, Zendikar didn't give us too much as far as like top end stuff that's super powerful. Other than I guess Moraug. Maybe we should have put some Moraug in here instead of like Gormond or something. I was kind of just thinking about the removal since we're kind of trying to discard and we're a little bit light on some of our removal. But that was when I saw Liliana in here initially. So maybe, yeah, maybe this should just be Moraug. Oops. AUG. There we go. Fury of Akoum. Could be pretty nasty with like Drana, and then you get a land drop. Still got to actually play with this card to figure out exactly how it works, but it sounds like you have to play your land in your second after your main combat phase. And then you untap and then you have additional combat phase. I believe that's how that works. A little bit confusing with how they have that phrased. So what do we have in, we'll just isolate green here. Zendikar not collected. Zendikar, there we go. Let's kind of scroll towards the back here. Alright, so we do have the Cragplate Baloth, which seems a little bit steep, at 7 mana, 6/6 hexproof haste. However, it can't be countered, and you can kick it for a lot of mana to have it come down as a 10/10. So I think in the right list, this could be pretty decent, but I'm not sure what we're trying to do here. It makes... Obviously, we can't really benefit off haste because we're already attacking, and then it comes down. It'll just be a creature. This doesn't seem very good. That one's not very good. The Green Warden is interesting, especially with Moraug. Maybe if you're trying to do some combo, we just focused on Drana, Moraug, and Green Warden. Maybe there's something there. Shaya is kind of the only other one really here at the top end. Yeah, we don't get too many beefy creatures here in Zendikar. But yeah, Shaya could be an option as well. But maybe just keeping a Rakdos. I'm not quite sure it's worth splashing a third color, especially with mana being kind of what it is. Phylath, maybe. Obviously, our opponent got some nice value off of it. I feel like this probably belongs to a little bit different deck, not necessarily like what we're trying to do with the reanimation. I don't think this is quite good enough. Artifacts? Not really. Yeah, I mean the Green Warden and Ashaya maybe. Not quite sure that's worth splashing a third color for. But yeah, Moraug probably the better option than like Gourmand. Like I was trying for the removal, but yeah, probably something like this. Maybe definitely needs a little bit more refining. I don't know if you can. We're kind of all in on the reanimation here with Drana, so I don't know if you can really make this into a best of 3, but it could be just kind of fun, janky best of 1 list, as a lot of the reanimation lists that we've seen in recent past have been as well. But a lot of reanimation spells actually rotated, so it's gonna be kind of tricky trying to do that. But Drana is definitely one way to do that, but there's not really a whole lot of support for that at the moment. Plus, we're running all 4 copies here of Drana. Want to see her, I guess, consistently. Then of course Terror is a pretty big house, and Massacre Wurm for the removal can work well in those low to the ground matchups. Those go wide if you can survive long enough. And then yeah, I think Moraug could be interesting, and then Terror is could be pretty busted with Drana. Just kind of a matter of finding the right removal package here. Like I said, the Inscription with the modal side. You know, if your opponent doesn't have a board presence, you just make him discard some cards. And there's plenty of 3 drops that are relevant. 2 and 3 drops, and Soul Shatter kind of gets around any sort of a protection or you know, hexproof type effects, which there's still a couple, but not a lot. So maybe Soul Shatter. The artwork is pretty cool, so I definitely want to always try it out for that. And then Extinction Events were pretty light on sweepers. We'd have Storm's Wrath as an option as well. That might be a better one. Maybe you do 1 Extinction Event, 2 Storm's Wrath. Something like that could be decent. And yeah, obviously missing the shock lands is pretty rough, but you know, we do have Triomes, so I think whenever it makes sense. I don't love putting these in the deck just to cycle, but I think with how much drawing we're doing, I think it kind of makes sense. And since we're all obviously more of a late game deck anyway, we don't mind having a bunch of tap lands necessarily in the first couple turns. Sometimes it can be kind of awkward, like it was in that last matchup, but we eventually were able to still get there. But there were definitely some times where it would have been nice to have like an untapped land come down. So we're gonna be forced to run temples, but then like the issue with temples is then like the rogue decks come down and then they make you mill the whatever you scribe to the top away. So that's gonna be a little frustrating at times. But yeah, it is what it is. So just kind of a fun little reanimation here, trying to take advantage of Drana. Obviously, probably lots of different ways you could utilize her. Maybe she's just more meant to be like in a cleric's deck as kind of a top end. But I kind of want to see if we could make her as like the focal point of a reanimation strategy. It was a little bit tricky because if you don't have enough creatures in the early turns, then it means your opponent's gonna have removal to kill as soon as you drop it here on turn 5. But that's also another way where the Inscription can kind of come in to kind of maybe your opponent discards some removal spells because they don't quite know what you're up to. They might discard some of their kill spells that would have been able to hit Drana otherwise. So there's probably a little bit of more tweaking that can be done with this particular build, but definitely think there's some janky fun to be had here. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, make sure you jank with purpose.